This is the Justin Jones Show. And now, your host, Justin Jones.
I knew it would happen. I absolutely knew it would happen. But I did it anyway. I bought an iPhone about a year ago, and I loaded it up with my lesbian rock band photos. Carrie Brownstein, call me. And my music, and my funny ringtones drawn from sitcoms and my apps. And I loved my iPhone. Still do. And I had my little case for it that everybody commented on, and I kept it in my pocket every day. And then, recently, the iPhone 5S came out. And this thing is now officially a piece of crap. Don't you hate that feeling? Planned obsolescence, they call it. The knowledge that even if you buy the product the day it's coming out, sooner or later, it won't be worth much. I don't know if you can buy a product anymore that's meant to be at the pinnacle of its performance and stay there, like you used to be able to, some mythical age. Who knows? Even now, you've got podcasts. Maybe one day they'll be able to beam voices directly into your brain instead of you having to download anything. And if they're beaming voices directly into your brain, would you really know if you're listening to a podcast or not at that point? So, you know how I officially knew that my old iPhone was now a piece of crap? So I was walking in the DuPont Circle neighborhood in my fantastic hometown of Washington, D.C., and I walked by a homeless man who was talking on an iPhone. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Justin, are you sure he was homeless? Maybe he was just disheveled. Maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe it was the end of the laundry cycle. Maybe he forgot to shave. Folks, I'm sure he was homeless, okay? He was rattling change in a paper cup. In one hand, he had the paper cup. In the other hand, he had the iPhone. You're not getting my quarter, bud. The best part is, he was talking to somebody on his iPhone. And as I walked by, I could pick up a little snippet of the conversation, and what I heard is whoever he's talking to, he's berating the guy. He's saying, you got to get your ass down here. You got to do this. You got to do that. You're an idiot. Da, 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 da. How would you like to be that guy? How'd you like to be the guy who's being called by a homeless man while he's panhandling, telling you, you're the idiot? I think that's as close as it gets to an official notice that your life sucks. But hey, who knows? Can't pass judgment on the guy. Might be sitting next to him one day. Why not? We've got the same phone. Anyway, we've got a good episode planned today. Today's guest, the man, the myth, the legend, John Kramer is in the house. My good friend, a fellow keeper of odd knowledge, is John Kramer, as am I, and we're going to talk about some of that odd knowledge today that we keep stored in our heads. Kramer is a passionate guy. He's passionate about his thing. whatever that thing is. Just ask him, and I'm sure he'll tell you. So let's dive into that interview. I think it's a good conversation. I'm pleased to beam it to the world. So let's pick up with Kramer.
Last night, I need a entertaining man. We were talking about you, babe. They said you was involved in a robbery that was due to happen at 2:45 in a main street. I didn't believe.
So Justin, what's up?
No, I set the show. No, I'm just kidding. Don't set my show. I'm setting the show. No, I'm kidding.
So you're Stephen Colbert. You like I'm just sitting here doing nothing, and you're running over, clapping your hands. There's American flags waving and stuff like that.
I've never seen the show. I mean, I've seen a bit online, but it's just not my. It's not subtle enough. Like I need my humor to be a little more subtle. It's a little too hit you over the head.
It's not subtle. Yeah, it's true.
It's not that doesn't mean he's never funny. Just not really my cup of tea.
Got it.
I'll tell you who I think is the funniest man alive right now. The funniest man alive today.
Okay.
Is my boy Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. is pretty damn funny. My problem with Louis C.K. is that sometimes Louis C.K., and he's amazing, he's brilliant, right? Sometimes he's a little depressing for me.
Oh, he's dark as fuck. That's why I like him.
I mean, I appreciate that, but you have to be in the right mood.
True. But no, you're absolutely right. That's why I think, not only is he a comic, he's like a philosopher. Because sometimes he gets dark and deep, but it's like some deep truths where he's like, there's some darkness out there, but you got to look square at it, right? You can't look away. Look square at it. But he makes you look at it because he makes it funny. He makes you laugh, and you're able to look at it and laugh. And I think that's brilliant.
Do you so what do you think of his show?
Oh, it's like, my DVR is already set. It's brilliant. One of the best shows on TV.
Yeah.
And I'm all, I love his stand-up and his online shows. And did you know about how you saw about, I guess it was a year or 2 years ago now, he did the thing where he recorded his own live show, and then instead of put it on Comedy Central or HBO or whatever, he just posted it online for $5. So he kind of cut out all the overhead costs, all the middlemen who would get a piece of the business. He just recorded it himself, produced it himself, put it online, said, you want to download it? $5. And he made $1 million on this deal. And he pledged ahead of time, I'll give 30% to some charity, blah, blah, blah. And he broke the model of comedy delivery. It was now every comic wants to do it, but the problem is every comic is not Louis C.K. They don't have that audience. But
so it's Radiohead style.
Yeah. Although they don't even charge anything. No? They're
oh, that's true.
They're pay what you want. Right? Isn't that what their deal is?
Yeah, which is... I think that's just a level of rock stardom that rock stars don't even achieve, right?
Yeah,
we're so awesome that you'll pay us. Just...
Yeah, you got to set the tone. Wait, so are you a big Radiohead fan?
Radiohead is brilliant. Kind of like Louis C.K. Brilliant, but kind of really dark and depressing and like that. But not funny. Right? So they don't have that humorous thing to kind of bring you back up. It's like I do listen to Radiohead sometimes, but I just find myself kind of like drawn in, and it's almost like sitting in a dark, dank room, and you get into the music, but I don't know, it just kind of breaks me down a little too much. So it's still, and do it sometimes. I'll take my cerebral music a little bit lighter hearted.
Are you calling Radiohead cerebral music?
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen them live?
I have not.
I'm not. I'd like to get into Radiohead. Radiohead's one of those bands where I feel I would like them if I were to dive in. I just have not yet had the time to really do so. But I kind of feel like they fit my profile.
Yeah, there's a certain sort of music that you just have to really like embrace and really learn, and not just listen to a few hits, but you have to listen to whole albums, and you have to think about, and it's like the new category of TV shows, right? Which is the cable TV shows, which have plots which span seasons, and you can't just watch season 3 episode 2 and know what's going on. There's like an investment of your life.
Did somebody say Mad Men? Did I hear? Oh yes, Mad Men.
Mad Men is an example. The Sopranos, The Wire.
You got
The Sopranos kind of started that, right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess that was like the first show where everybody made such a huge deal, like TV, the golden era of TV, blah blah blah. You got to invest.
You have to invest.
And yeah, that's a good way. I never thought of comparing music to TV shows like that, where you can't just do the radio hits. Like you got to do the deep album cuts, and you got to get it into your soul a little bit, get a little dirty with it.
Speaking of deep album cuts, a band that I think is deep album cut, to bring it back to the Jimi Hendrix conversation that we were having, I think before you hit record.
Yeah, that's gonna be in the podcast anthology that we'll do 30 years
exactly
down the road.
So you know who Jimmy was planning to play with when he died, like who was kind of next on the list?
No,
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Really?
Yeah.
That would have been interesting. I don't know if it would have been good. It would have been interesting.
I would have liked to have heard it. I mean, it would have been different. But there were like a really wide range, right, in terms of what they do. So, I kind of feel like they maybe would have more conformed to what Jimmy does, and just be like, we're your next backing band for the, psychedelic acid blues thing.
If he had kept doing that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I feel like music back then, they were changing so fast that he probably would have been doing something totally different if he'd been alive in 1972. Look at where the Stones were in 67, the psychedelic stuff, and then by 72 just the really dirty honky tonk woman stuff, just a total tonal shift, like the Beatles from Sgt. Pepper's to White Album. I feel like it was so much, they were just so much more advanced back then, and they were putting out an album twice a year. These days bands put an album every 3 years, and it's, you could mix and match. I like the Strokes, but I think the Strokes' first album came out in 2001, and they've had 3 since. You could take a track off the first Strokes album, you could put on the last album, it wouldn't sound that out of place. I don't know if those guys back then were just that good, or if today's guys suck, or what. But
I think it's societal. I mean, I think musicians do evolve today, but it's they were evolving together back then. Whereas bands just kind of come out today, they sort of do their thing, they have their life experiences, and they do they do what they do. But back then, right, there was major societal shift going on. You know, the pill had just come out. Vietnam was happening. We had TV was still fairly young. Heck, we had TV. We don't really have TV anymore. Not like we have TV, but it's, back then everybody watched the TV. The TV that was on was the TV. The Dick Van Dyke Show, you could talk about it. People knew what you were talking about, right? Whatever the hits of the day, the 5 hit shows that were on TV back then, people would know what you're talking about. There was top 40 radio. You listen to the top 40. Maybe you had some local bands, but you knew all the top 40. I don't even know who's top 40 now. I listen to stuff on the internet, right? There's so much more culture today, but there's no common culture. Not quite in the same way. There are memes that we are all kind of aware of, but, we all sort of know about Miley Cyrus slutting it up, right?
No, I haven't heard about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. She stripped naked and ground against, who was it? Some rapper.
Something about twerking. I don't know.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. We're sort of aware of it as a meme, but do you know what song she was doing? I don't know.
Not a clue.
Right?
Even if I heard it, I'm not sure if I'd classify it as a song.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, who knows? But back then, as something of that magnitude would have been like a big deal. It's just. Now it's just part of the cultural fabric. It's very, it's like so detailed that you lose focus on individual aspects.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it's kind of like you're saying, like all the bands today are kind of in their own little worlds. They're kind of isolated, cocooned off from whatever else is going on, and it's because it's real easy to just, get into your thing. Like, okay, we dig the blues, we're going to do blues. And then if you want to, you can just listen to nothing but blues on the internet or your old records and just do that. Mm-hmm. And you don't, like you say, you don't have to turn the TV on and watch whoever the hot new band is, and you don't have to listen to whatever the new artist is on the radio. And
you can listen to the blues channel on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes along maybe with the the political stuff where a lot of people get into their own. Maybe I think it's part of the same societal forces where people sort of move apart. They get into their own little world.
Totally.
They think some people think that Obama's the savior, and they have that, and all their friends think so, and then there are these Tea Party people that
I think he should go back to Kenya,
who think that he should go back to Kenya, and that we should abolish the government, and that warlords should rule the country, and what, all their friends think so, and they all preach to the choir at their dinner parties,
and while they stock up on ammo.
While they stock up on ammo, and the other guys stock up on weed.
So now we're getting to the good stuff, because a couple times over this weekend, this On Grounds, you have kept trying to talk about some political stuff and like your ideas about redistricting, and every time I kept saying, no, just save it, hold it, save it, and you were like, why, for what? So now it can be told I wanted the thoughts fresh for the podcast, because we've talked about this like before, months ago, but I want to talk about it again because in the context of, I don't want to dwell too long and talk about the shutdown because it's over, and because at the point people are going to be listening to this, probably it's like ancient history, I hope, and let's forget about it.
But I mean,
But can we talk about the shutdown during the next shutdown?
well, I mean, let's stipulate for the record that for the last 2 weeks, the country went through some real bullshit and got fucked over. Republicans basically fucked this country. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to say my opinion, but I mean, I think
there was a disagreement.
Yeah, I think some people who know me heard me rant a time or two. So a lot of people say that the reason that kind of the Tea Party members are so dug in and are just so like implacably opposed and will obstruct anything Obama wants to do is because the districting in the House is such that, you know, these guys, there's no liberals, there's no moderates in the districts. It's just a Republican sweep, and so they don't ever have to worry about compromising. They don't ever have to worry about appeasing the middle or meeting anybody halfway. So they can be as crazy as they want to be, and that's how they keep winning. I mean, is that your belief, or what are your thoughts on that?
It is my strong suspicion. I mean, I think it would take a little bit of deep digging into the district numbers and into the census data, and quite frankly, I'm probably too lazy to ever do that.
Wait, you mean you're not Nate Silver? I love Nate Silver, by the way.
Yeah, no, Nate is awesome. I don't know, maybe I should get into that, and I could be a junior Nate Silver. I mean, I'm not going to be Nate Silver, right? But there are other guys online that you know.
538 is hiring now, actually. Seriously.
My stats education is not good enough. I took one stats class in college, and I'm okay, but you know, I think they'd probably want.
But you know, you're computer programming.
I do.
I mean, maybe you should just, for our audience, share your credentials, professor.
So I've got a bachelor's in math and a master's in computer science from Washington University in St. Louis. I have a master's in computer science from the University of Rochester. I did teach briefly at Fontbonne University in St. Louis and at SUNY Geneseo in Geneseo, New York. And I've been working in the software industry as a developer, and then more recently as a product manager ever since.
And I know you got a lot of ideas about kind of computer startups or entrepreneurial stuff for the future, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not willing to put any of those down on any sort of public record. I mean, that seems kind of silly, but I'd like to start something. It seems like, I don't know, it just seems like a cool thing to do. It is potentially a way to make a lot of money, potentially a way to not get a high salary for a while as well. So I'm not sure about the financial aspect of that. I'll maybe have to run some crystal ball on that one. Although I think the numbers that I would put in there are just going to come out of my ass. So it's probably not worth doing.
Don't tell Nate Silver that.
But, well, no, here's the real problem with working for 538 is that I'd have to move to D.C.
Is that where he's based? Actually, you know what?
Is it not? I would just assume.
He doesn't. You know, the new 538 is not just politics; it's sports now mostly. It's out of ESPN, so it could be anywhere. I don't know. Actually, I have no idea where Nate Silver is.
I mean, the fiance and I have kind of set on Seattle. I've got job connections there. She's got family in Portland. Seattle and Portland are just beautiful cities. They're very livable, walkable, bikeable. Well, Seattle's not so bikeable because they're big hills. But, I mean, it's just very, you know, cool little markets and coffee shops and, you know, cost of living is lower than on the East Coast. And
Could your fiance introduce me to Carrie Brownstein? Does she know her?
no. Although...
Could she work on that for me?
Maybe, maybe. Although the closest that I ever came to a Northwest celebrity was this guy that I met. We hung out a few times, who kept promising he would introduce me to Chuck Palahniuk, and it never happened. So that's a disappointment.
Yeah, that's probably good. You would have maybe ended up in a book or something. So back to the redistricting issue. So tell us your thoughts about, because you've got some ideas about how to
right. So
how we could change the redistricting process.
Well, let's get back to how the redistricting process could may have affected this shutdown. So there. My understanding is that there are two ways that redistricting, let's say gerrymandering, works, and gerrymandering being redistricting with a political purpose. So drawing districts, around demographics that are going to help you politically. And one way is to create safe seats, right? So if you've got a Republican state legislature, they'll draw seats on the map that are guaranteed, right? So if there's a congressman that has a lot of pull, they want to make sure that he stays there. They'll draw safe seats. The other way that they try to do it is that they'll try to draw seats where we can draw districts in such a way that they can draw the most red districts, even if they're just barely red. If they're red enough, the Republicans, then that will give them the most seats for their state. Could go the other way as far as the Democrats goes, right? The Democrats have done the same thing, although Republicans have a worse reputation for it. So if the former is happening, they're drawing safe seats. That's going to lead to very, very, very right-wing, and on the other side, very, very left-wing members of Congress. If they're drawing districts in terms of the other way, where they're just trying to get the most seats, then it might theoretically actually lead to more moderate members of your party, but a larger majority. What we can say is this, that there were 1 million more votes for Democratic House candidates than Republican House candidates in the most recent election.
Yeah, so I mean, some of that is gerrymandering, but then isn't some of that also just kind of, I mean, there's a lot more Democratic districts that are kind of, just have way too many surplus votes, right? Like San Francisco. I'm sure it voted 90% Democrat.
So you're saying that...
And that's not the Democrats' fault. They didn't draw that district. It's San Francisco, right?
So you're saying that the urban density being so highly Democratic is...
Yeah, that's probably one reason that leads to a lot of those surplus Democrat votes.
Yeah. Well, and
there aren't as many Republican areas alike. There are some, maybe like in Oklahoma, but there just aren't that many.
That's a good point. And it would be hard for Democrats to really even do gerrymandering in the case of San Francisco. I mean, they can draw deep blue districts, but there's no way that they can draw more districts out of that, really. Now, it's a good point. And urban voters are profoundly underrepresented in the U.S. For similar reasons to that. So there's that.
That's right. Haven't you said at one point you want to ban the United States Senate because it's unrepresentative?
Yes.
So, you trying to put me out of work?
I would create a different house, or a different. I'd create a different different house. You know, we have to have a second house, right? But I probably wouldn't elect the representatives the same way. Yeah, but it's kind of the similar problem, right? Because these swaths of land that are large states that are not very populated, right? They get two senators, right? So these rural people, they just are really highly represented, and urban people are not. Let's not forget, D.C. doesn't get any representation at all.
So how do you put together this problem with how do you come to your solution, which is coming out of your software?
Well, so the Senate thing is totally a different issue. But as far as the gerrymandering goes, it's a partisan problem, and I think that the problem is that partisan bodies, which are state legislatures, are drawing these lines, right? And they shouldn't be allowed to do it. There could actually be fairly easy ways to come up with a computer program, an algorithm, if you will, that will do it in what is a fair and reasonable way. And so the inputs would be census data, where people live, basically, and let the thing draw the map. Maybe you use some other sort of data about roads and transportation systems. For logistical reasons, you would want districts to be fairly navigable, right? So that you could have reasonable polling places and things like that. But I don't see why we need to have debates in state legislatures for that. It seems to be a big problem.
So who writes the program, though? Because whoever writes it, they're going to be a Democrat or a Republican. And won't they influence it somehow?
Well, so Congress could set the parameters, right, of the program. Now, congressmen, so they're not going to be able to actually write the code. But certainly they could...
They can't write a dinner menu.
Certainly they could set the parameters, and they could vote on the parameters. As to who writes the code, we hire companies to do it. I think it should be open source, so that people can see it.
So now we're going to let the Chinese see how we elect Congress?
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe they get to hack in and futz with it?
They get to hack in by moving people's households around in Montana in order to affect who gets elected. It's a hard hack to pull off there, Justin.
So, and then isn't there also like a time element to this? Like the law would be written to take effect in 10 years or something?
Well, so that was... I mean, I don't know that that's strictly necessary, but I think that would be a way to further take any, manipulation off the table. Is that, if we're voting... So if we're voting in 2020 on the districts for 2020, or for the algorithm that's going to produce the districts in 2020, there could be a lot of debate about how the code's going to be written, right? But if you say we're going to vote in 2020 for what's going to go on in 2030, what the code that's going to produce districts in 2030, well, we don't know what the demographics are going to look like. So if we produce the code now, apply it to the demographics in 2030, how are you going to manipulate that process? You just can't. Because you don't know where people are going to be living. I don't know that that's strictly necessary, because I think it's a hard thing to hack anyway, without being obvious. But I think it's a good safeguard. And I think it's something we should lean toward in this country that we don't, is let's do things in a nonpartisan way.
Kind of reminds me of the last wave of political progressivism, like with Teddy Roosevelt, like early 1910s or teens era, that's when they passed all kinds of stuff like the recall, the referendum, the ballot initiative, that kind of movement to kind of take power out of the hands of the kind of entrenched politicians and into the people's hands. Like this could be like this would be like round 2 100 years later.
But smarter.
Well, that's what we think now, anyway.
Yeah.
So, could you write this program that you're talking
Absolutely. I don't know what form the census data's in. I'd have to figure out how to, pull it all into a database, get some giant computers to crunch the numbers.
They probably already do this. I mean, they probably already use some software to do this just to get a starting point, and then all the state ledgers come in and start carving out their little pieces and, rescuing their neighborhoods and all that stuff.
Probably not. They probably go with last year's carve up.
Actually, you're right. That's true. They probably just...
One specific point of gerrymandering. Sorry, this is like a little bit off topic here. Dennis Kucinich in 2010, the Republican legislature cut out his district entirely. So they were like, that guy is a pain in the ass. And they cut it into... They just eliminated it. Now, they had to eliminate a district, mind you, because Ohio is shrinking relative to the size of the U.S.
That's a hell of a way to learn people don't like you, man. They pass a law to get rid of your ass.
Oh, he probably knew it, and he probably took it as a compliment. Like when you walk into the visiting stadium as a pro athlete and booze rain down, right?
After he left, didn't I remember him? There was a blip of a story that he was floating the idea of moving to Portland or Washington State to run.
I think he moved to Seattle and ran.
Did he actually go through with it?
I think so. That was after I had moved, so I don't know.
I mean, frankly, have you seen his wife?
Smoking hot.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd take a happy retirement and go with the south of France with her, or wherever she wants to go.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's just me.
He can't be hurting for money. He's like written books and.
Yeah, but he probably gave it all away to save the whales or something.
Yeah, no, she's smoking hot. That's a good point.
He's like the lefty version of Ron Paul. He's just kind of this shrimpy little crank who's always out there, and you want him to go away.
Yeah. He's not quite as crazy as Ron Paul, but almost. But there's no one like that in the Senate anymore. Not on the left side.
In the Senate? Not the House, just the Senate?
I mean, I'm asking, is there?
Yeah. Bernie Sanders is kind of out there.
Bernie Sanders. But not...
Although he doesn't advertise. He's kind of taken a low profile, I think, since he moved to the Senate. But he's still a lefty. I mean, he's a socialist, he'll tell you. He's not a Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear independent and you think centrist, but no.
Yeah. No, there's Joe Lieberman independent, then there's Bernie Sanders independent. Big difference.
Well, yeah, Joe Lieberman's on the other end. He's right of Rand Paul. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Joe Lieberman, even when he was a Democrat, wasn't a Democrat.
He was the Democrats' VP nominee in 2000.
Yeah,
and then like within 4 or 5 years, he'd been kicked out of the party. What happened?
I mean, Al Gore got to pick who he wanted to pick and made a really crazy choice.
You don't think that was a good pick?
Not because of not for policy reasons. Honestly, Lieberman's pretty centrist, and I think that was fairly intelligent. But he's just kind of cranky and not really very personable.
Dick Cheney was personable?
Well, Somebody had to be president. Bush knew he couldn't do it. And Bush had enough charm and good looks and neighborly, neighborliness for...
Oh, so you think Bush was good looking? I didn't know this was going to be that kind of a podcast.
By presidential standards. Well, you know what I'm saying. Like, Bush was the face and Cheney was the brains. Bush knew he needed somebody to actually run the country.
So
Al Gore needed somebody who was charming as a Veep. Wow. I mean, he needed to be more personable.
I wonder if Al Gore is maybe was charm reverse at that point because of Bill Clinton. Like maybe Al Gore thought, where does charm get you? It gets you an intern under the desk in the Oval Office. I think that whole election was about Gore trying to hug Clinton and hold Clinton at arm's length at the same time, and he couldn't pull it off.
Do you think he kept him too far or hugged him too close?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know what I really think about Al Gore? I think his dad was a senator. I think when he was, this is true, I've read this, is when he was born, his dad looked at the baby and was like, that baby's going to grow up to be president. And I think he was raised his whole life you're going to be president. You're at least going to be a senator like your dad. That's baseline. That's what we expect. That's minimum. So I think he was raised his whole life that he had to do this. I don't think he really wanted to do it. I think he's one of those. Some politicians love the backhand, slapping hands and back slaps and hey, how the hell are you? And some of them they really have to force themselves. I think he had to force himself. I don't think he really loved it. I think part of him was a little relieved when he lost, and that's when he kind of let himself go and kind of became super environment Gore and kind of that. I think that's his real passion, Earth in the Balance Gore.
I'll buy it. So could the Democrats have won if they had nominated somebody else in 2000?
Clinton could have won again.
Yeah.
I don't know who else. I don't know who. I can't remember now. Who else?
Do you remember who
was around in 2000?
It was Bill Bradley.
Yeah. I never took him seriously.
I voted for him.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I've met the guy. He's
really? How'd you meet Bill
personal campaign event. I mean, not, I haven't, played around golf with them or anything, but I don't know. He knew my parents way back when. They're not close friends, but
what's the connection? They go to school together or something?
I'm not really sure. Just I think political stuff. My dad's an elected official. He's a judge, so I think way back when there was something. I'm not.
They were on the school board committee together or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you should look it up.
I don't know. I should.
You should
ask.
call Bill Bradley up. Get him to introduce you to somebody. I don't know.
He was an NBA player, right?
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I said Bill Bradley, and you're like, oh yeah, Bill Bradley.
I know who Bill Bradley. I know all the NBA players who ended up in the Senate at least. Okay. So I know about Senator Bradley and Senator LeBron James. Give me those two. So, okay. So I think now is the time in the show we're going to go to the audience perspiration number, because I've got some questions written on some cards here that I'm going to ask you. But the catch is these questions were actually not written to be asked to you personally at all. The questions have nothing to do with you. These are just questions from our loyal podcast listener audience that are legion, and I have many fans. Really, I'm the star of the show. Nobody knows who you are. But we have to ask the question to somebody, so I'm going to ask them to you. Actually, I should say you know what? You got a name check in my very first podcast, so you're actually an honored guest of the show. Do you remember that name check?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I appreciate the shout out.
Right. So, so really, honors all around. So, first question that you may or may not be qualified to answer: how many pieces of information would you need to know to calculate the total number of human beings who have ever lived in the history of the planet Earth?
Wow, what am I interviewing for Goldman Sachs here? What kind of a question is that?
Just a brain teaser.
To calculate with, like, perfect accuracy? One! What's the total number of people that have ever lived?
Okay, that's a cheat.
So how would I go about doing that? Well, first of all, I would have to know what is a human, right? We've been evolving from apes, and at what point are we actually? Because
that's a good one.
At some
now we're
point,
getting deep.
You're at some point in monkeys an ape, and then at some point in apes a human, and I don't know. I don't really know what that is.
Interesting point. So that means that theoretically, according to what you're saying, there was some first human whose parents were not human.
Mm-hmm.
And then this human kind of looked at them and was like, hey, Mom, Dad, go away, you bother me. I'm starting a new thing here.
Pretty much. And here's what's even crazier if you think about it that way. That first human, who did they have sex with?
I knew it. A split second before you said it, I knew that's where you were going.
That was bestiality, and it just came out well, and there was another human.
So the whole trajectory of the human race could have gone wrong if some other numbers had come up and some thing had come out, and the human would have looked at it and said, "Oh shit, I'm never doing that again," and that would have been it for all of us. Interesting. All right. Well, I don't know. I don't think there's any actual certitude, or not much. But I don't know how the number was arrived at, but I do know scientists' best case answer to the number. You want to take a guess?
60 billion.
No. You're only about halfway there. 110 billion ever.
Yeah, I knew that thing that people always say that there are more people alive right now than have died in the past. You've heard people say this as a inspirational thing. That's just,
I don't think it's
no.
True,
There's no way that's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Second question: is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Really? You that sure?
Yeah.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
It is. It's if you put it on sandwich bread, then yes. If you put it into a bun that opens from one side, then no.
So let me get this straight. You're very concerned about where do I draw the line between ape and human, but you see a hot dog bun and you say, "Get the fuck out of here!" Mm-hmm. Not a sandwich.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I agree with your method.
By the way, Burnt Weenie Sandwich, fantastic album.
I told you not to bring up my car accident.
That's a Frank Zappa album for those of you who are not
See, remember when we talked about Zappa, I told you that's another one of those I want to get into, but I don't.
I know, and I've got some on my phone. We'll have to play some on the way back.
I know Valley Girl, that's and a couple other tracks, and I honestly know more about Dweezil and Moon Unit than Frank from MTV.
Moon Unit.
She was kind of cute back in the day.
What a name he gave to his kids. Just like he was, hoping that they would become NFL players or something with the crazy names that he gave them.
Well, I hope you didn't think she was going to become an NFL player.
I guess not, yeah.
What does she do, anyway? Is Dweezil still play guitar?
He still does the Zappa Play Zappa, which I have not...
He does Zappa Play Zappa?
Which I have to go see. Yeah.
Is it like him and like his dad's band?
Yeah, some of the guys from his dad's band. I think they hire some other, talented studio guys. I mean, you have to have very talented musicians to play the crazy shit that Frank Zappa wrote.
You know who Zappa was cool with back in the day?
Who's that?
And he was on their TV show.
The Monkees.
Here we come, yes. He was on an episode of the show. He dressed up like a monkey, like he wore the little double-breasted shirt, and he wore the wool hat like Mike Nesmith. And he pretended to be Mike Nesmith, and Mike Nesmith put on a fake nose and mustache and pretended to be Frank Zappa. They were like buddies. It's really funny. You should look for it on the internet.
Awesome.
Because you wouldn't think you'd think he would think the Monkees were bullshit, but they were cool. Why do you look skeptical?
I don't know. I don't know that I would think that he would think the Monkees were bullshit.
They got a hard time back then for being manufactured.
Yeah, Frank was weird though. He didn't. I don't know. He was crazy. He didn't think like other people. You know what I mean? Like he was a strange, brilliant guy. He's hard to predict.
When did he die?
94.
Were you into his stuff then?
No.
So you didn't notice?
Discovered him in college. Typical. You discover the band in college that changes your views on music. Some similar story to a ton of other people. Roommate had 4 or 5 of his albums, so then I listened to all those, burned them, and downloaded the rest of his stuff.
I think for me that band would probably be Velvet Underground. My roommate had the box set, and he loaned me one of these. He's like, listen to this, and I'd never heard them, and I was like, damn, who is this? This is good stuff.
Everybody's got at least one of those.
Okay, question number 3, third and final question. Question number 3 is, what is the evolutionary advantage of emotions?
I think that there are many, but the biggest one is that they get people to bond more tightly, and so work together better, protect their young more. I'd say that's probably the biggest one.
But don't animals do that? I mean, doesn't like
Animals
a dog
have emotions.
You think so?
Yeah, at the mammal level.
Okay, but they don't have emotions like people. Like they don't feel remorse or guilt or regret.
Well, right.
They just have kind of basic, I'm pain, happy, that's about it.
Love. Dogs, you can tell a dog loves you.
Yeah.
So they're simpler, right? So these emotions have evolved at different times. And it's, guilt. Why do we have guilt? I don't know. It seems like it would be a negative thing, but maybe it protects society from people doing really awful things to each other to some degree, right? Maybe that's why we have guilt.
Yeah, I never thought about why guilt specifically.
But I mean, I think each emotion has to be looked at individually, right? Because they all sort of come from different reasons. Pick another emotion.
Jealousy.
Jealousy.
I don't think dogs get jealous.
No. They have desires. They may want the, peanut butter sandwich that you have in your hand, but they're not jealous of you. No, I don't. Why jealousy? Probably because I don't know. It's a hard one to give up.
Don't look at me.
Jealousy.
You're the show guest and expert. Yeah.
Just for fun. That's why, because it's so much fun.
Very fun.
Yeah, maybe not.
I'll agree with your point that you want the basic emotions just to kind of bond or whatever, but then that still doesn't answer. Okay, why go beyond just kind of the basic level? Why the complex jealousy and guilt and anger and just the emotions you can't even. Emotions don't even have words in English. Like they only have German names because they're so fucked up. Like why all of those?
Oh, you mean Schadenfreude?
Yeah, it's for starters.
I don't know. It'd be nice if we could do away with a few of those, huh?
Take a pill.
Or use an ice pick.
You have to know exactly what you're targeting.
My eye hurts.
It'd be difficult. All right. It's good talk. You feel good?
Yeah, it was good talk.
Kind of took it back full circle, back to like kind of the philosopher thing we were talking about with Louis C.K. up top. My number one comedian and / philosopher, brilliant dude.
He is brilliant.
There's a dude I'd love to meet. In fact, Louis, if you're listening, please, we'd love you to be the next guest on the show.
Louis, come on the show.
and then have us both, me and Kramer, do a guest spot on your show. We can just be extras in the background. We don't care. We'll do it for free.
Sounds awesome. I'm there, Louis.
All right.
I don't need scale.
He's not SAG. All right. Feels good. Thank you, Kramer, for chatting and
good to be on the show.
All right, peace. Thanks to Kramer for stopping by and letting us download a piece of his brain. Do you feel smarter? I do. Thank you, Kramer. Appreciate it. Thanks to you for listening. Stick with us for upcoming episodes of The Justin Jones Show. Future possible guests, and I stress the word possible, future possible guests include John Hamm, Lena Dunham, Barack Obama, and my Uncle Billy. Looking forward to recording those episodes. Hope you're looking forward to hearing them. So, until then, we will speak again. If you'll excuse me, I got to go to Whole Foods. I need my organic, artisanal French baguette. Delicious. Until next time, I'm Justin Jones.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much. Yeah. For the next song that we'd like to sing, this is one in which... Yeah, okay, hang on. Hang on. This is a song... Shut up while he's talking. Yes.